Welcome to GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, aka the Going North Podcast, where authors from around the world help you realize that success is tangible. You'll leave with at least one new piece of inspiration or information to help you keep going north. Now let's get on with the show. Today's episode is sponsored by both books, Going North, Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself, and the follow-up bestseller, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. Head over to Amazon.com, pick up both books. They are available in a trifecta of paperback, audio, and ebook. Cop all three of both and be on the lookout for another book from yours truly to help podcasters succeed. Now let's get on with today's episode. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, we got another super special, awesome human for you today, my friends. That's right, indeed. Not just any super special, awesome human. We got a veteran in the house, baby. That's right, indeed. A wonderful Navy veteran, U.S. Navy veteran. And on top of that, a freelance editor, voice actor, as well as a reader for the Hippocampus magazine and books. Let's give it up for the ALC himself, the one, the only Andre Lewis Carter. How you doing today, Andre?
Hey, I'm doing good. Really happy to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Woohoo! It's an honor to have you here. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Especially one of the folks who served in the great Navy of the U.S. of A.
Well, I had a great time while I was doing it, so it's all good.
Yeah, that's right, indeed. All good in the neighborhood, indeed. So, my goodness, my man. So, since it's your first time on this side of the internet, usually like to ask folks to give us a bit of their backstory for the folks who don't know about you yet, maybe living under like 10 rocks. So, mind telling us a bit more about who is the amazing Andre?
hmm Okay, yeah. My backstory is born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, so Midwestern guy. So naturally, I wanted to join the Navy to actually see the ocean, and I definitely got to do that. I stuck around for 30 years, so I've been on both sides of the coast, Europe, Africa, you name it. I've probably been there, and well, I enlisted about the same time that this fictional story takes place, so I know how the story affected the Navy. So, but yeah, I did that, had a good time, did a lot of traveling, met my wife. So a lot was going on.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. So, what got you into writing? Did you also have a love for the pen in grade school before you had jumped into the submarines?
No, and that's surface ships. Yeah, no submarines. Uh, I actually wrote the whole time I was in the Navy, and I had some things published while I was in the Navy. So I've been writing for a while. I was writing mostly short stories and poetry, and as I got older, I was just time to write a novel. So I did it.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. So, my goodness, so all that writing decided to make your first entry to the business of immortality. This fabulous book, indeed, if I'm not mistaken, Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. So, my goodness, so any other inspirations behind the book outside of your military experience?
Well, as I started writing the book, it takes place in the early 70s. And I started noticing the parallels between then and now. You had a very divisive president in Nixon. You had the Black Power movement and the Black Lives Matter movement. You had the feminist movement and the Me Too movement. So I just kept seeing all of these parallels. So I just covered all of it in the book. But I also touched on the history of racism in the Navy. The book actually culminates with the only known race riot on board a U.S. Navy ship, USS Kitty Hawk, and also wanted the people to have a feel of what it's like to be in the Navy back then. So hopefully, I was able to do that.
Sounds good indeed. Sounds good Indeed. So my goodness, so living through all of that, and did you gain a love for history, I guess, living through those times and probably seeing maybe some things that other folks aren't meant to see?
Yeah, I mean, it was the '70s, which was a long time ago. I hate to admit that, but it was a long time ago. The riot happened in '72. I enlisted in '75. And like I said, it was still having effects. They were starting sensitivity training. They developed a new rating of counselor because the main reason is, Vietnam was the first war that was televised. So all of the stuff that was happening, they were seeing on the evening news every night. So having riots on board Navy ships, that wasn't supposed to happen. Certainly, it wasn't supposed to be, you know, televised. So
Yeah, definitely indeed. Yeah, because the thing is, during that time, like TV was really a lot more available to the average citizen compared to World War I and World War II. It's like good luck having a TV during those times opposed to Vietnam.
yeah, and a lot of those folks that were in the field, they weren't, World War One and Two. It was newspapers, and they could be told what to print. But the folks in Vietnam, they were freelance, and they were they were embedded with the troops. So a lot of what was really going on is what got on television.
Definitely indeed. That's right indeed. Keeping folks informed. So my goodness, how long did it take you to write the book? 'Cause I'm pretty sure there was stuff you had to add and take out as you decided to finally get this out there.
Yeah, it's mainly writing and rewriting. So the rewrite after about the 20th rewrite, I stopped counting because I'd say, okay, it's the absolute best that it can be. Go down for a couple of days, pick it back up, and say, man, why did I say that? So yeah, but it took about 2 years for me to finish it. So I guess that's about average time. And I had to do a little research as well. So, like the government documents, etc., that I talk about in the book, those are all real. You could Google them, but read them for yourself if you want. And I actually did a census check in Florida in the early '70s to make sure that there was a population of Afro Cubans where this kid was from. So, and there were. So, try to put some reality in my fiction.
That's what I'm talking about indeed. So my goodness, it's good that you decided to put some good research into a book like this. And actually, funny enough, folks think you don't really put research into
Yeah.
fiction books if they just read it.
Well, yeah, and w- if you make up the world and all that stuff, you really don't have to, But when you're placing it in a time period, I mean, this is kind of like historical fiction when you're talking about the 1970s. So you have to make sure. I mean, I couldn't count on my memory because I could. Right now, I can't remember what happened yesterday, so let alone 30 years ago. So I had to do some research.
So did you do any journaling back then too at all?
Yeah, I did. I've never been able to do the journaling every day. I tend to keep things in my head, and once or twice a week, I write it all down. But yeah, the everyday thing, I was never able to develop that. I guess I didn't have enough discipline for that one.
Guess it comes with the territory.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like everybody works different ways.
Definitely different ways indeed. So speaking of working in different ways, what was your process for writing this book to completion?
Uh, well, I didn't often have a schedule. I just, when I had time, I wrote. But when you're writing a novel, you need to have some kind of schedule, normal schedule. So every day I'd be writing by 10 o'clock. And I wrote most of it in the public library or in a cafe or Starbucks or something like that. The sound of the murmur of people that I didn't know seemed to relax me. And it was like going to work, you know. So yeah, start at 10, drink lots of coffee, right till about 3, and then go home and think about percolate in my mind overnight, and then next day hit it again. And sometimes I take a Sunday off, maybe Saturday and Sunday. But yeah, I just kept at it. And you know, since I was in a library, it was easy to do the research there as well. So
That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. So my goodness, so being able to stick to that schedule for the most part, even taking breaks and letting your thoughts percolate and eventually dance on to the page. Any plans for more books in the future now that you got this one out the way?
yeah, I do. Right now, I'm finishing up a screenplay that I'm going to submit, and but yeah, I've also started the second novel. It's not a continuation of this one. It's a new story, but I'm thinking about writing a novel that is a sequel to this one, and but this time tell it from the female Ada's perspective of what's going on. So, of course, he meets a girl and falls in love. So, and she's kind of an interesting character. So, writing a book with from her perspective will probably be a lot of fun.
So I'm talking about indeed. Sweet. So that's freaking awesome. A screenplay. And if I'm not mistaken, you did a one-man show before too, right?
Well, I had a one act play that was staged at the last theater conference. So that's a yearly conference that takes place in Valdez, Alaska, and it's kind of nice to see your play being performed. I mean, that was kind of cool.
Definitely cool indeed. So my goodness, my goodness. So it's really good that you're really expressing your creative side and really putting
Mhm.
out and expressing yourself in multiple ways. So any advice for those who may be a little shy to show the creative side to the world?
Yeah, yeah, be bold is what I would say, but it takes endurance. And the thing that really opened the door for me was I had to think of myself as a writer. Being a writer doesn't mean that you've been published. I mean, it means that in your head, you are a writer and you're writing, you're reading and you're writing. So, my advice would be to read the types of things that you want to write and steal as much as you can, basically. But yeah, you write and you submit. You're going to get a lot of rejection letters, or if you're lucky, so some folks don't even answer you. But it's like anything else: practice, practice, practice. And so read and write, and nowadays with all of the options of self-publishing, so you don't really have to get a publisher to publish your book now. You can get an editor, a freelance editor to edit your book, get it ready to go, and self-publish. So if you have ideas that you can write down, I'd say go for it.
That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. So my goodness says with the wonderful life that you're living, I'm sure there's been some setbacks along the way. So what would you consider your biggest setback that actually became your biggest success?
Biggest setback. Well, when I was enlisted for about 9.5 years, and I was really into photography, and I wanted to change my rate from I was a radioman, so I worked in naval communications, and I wanted to change to photographer's mate, and they turned me down because radioman was in a higher bracket than photography, and so that was heartbreaking. And that's probably why I went ahead and got commissioned because I needed a bigger challenge than what I was getting with being a radioman. So, and my biggest, well, the best thing is actually meeting my wife. So we were in Iceland, and clicked and met up again in Spain. So we spent a lot of time together and got hooked up. So that was the best thing that happened to me.
I got you. I got you. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. So, since you've been on a few podcasts, being interviewed about your wonderful book and all the stuff that you're creating for others to enjoy, is there a question that you wish folks would ask you more often?
Actually, most things are covered, so I can't think of anything else that they haven't asked already. But I
Uh,
mean, I'm open to answering questions. So if you have any,
yes, indeed. So, if your wonderful book, Between the Devil and the Deep, if it was a food, what would it be and why?
ooh, if it was a food, it'd be well, it would probably it'd be a Cuban dish, which I can't think of one right off the top of my head, but I know there's this Cuban sandwich that you can get, and that's probably what the book would be. Because the young man is Afro-Cuban, and his family he was actually born in Cuba, and his family escaped to the U.S. when the revolution happened. So it has that flavor. At least I hope it has that flavor. That was the intention.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about, indeed. Hey, everybody needs the flavor. That's right, indeed.
Yeah,
The spice of
absolutely.
life.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, coming down to the magical question that every guest gets
Mhm.
to receive, and that is if you know, wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in
Ooh,
the current year, what advice would you give to yourself?
oh my goodness. Pay attention to what's going on. I mean, watch the news, read the paper. Uh, Try not to get depressed or get angry. Just think it out for yourself and have conversations with your friends, arguments with your friends, and just stay plugged into what's going on because it's very important right now. And that's something else that was kind of like the '70s, early '70s. There was a lot going on, and people were, still marching, and you had the weathermen blowing buildings up, and all kinds of stuff going on. So it kind of feels like that right now.
I get you. I get you. I guess the more things change, the more they stay the same, huh?
I tell you, it's a cycle. Yeah.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about, indeed. Well, I know one thing that folks need to know what's going on is what my man Andre is doing out there in the world. So, for those who need to keep in contact and keep up with your journey and buy some copies of your marvelous book for those to read and enjoy, what's the best way for folks to do so?
The best way to find the book is to go to Amazon, of course. And my website is all lowercase, one word, andrelewiscarter.com. And on my website, I have links to all of the different places that sell the book. I also did the Audible, the voiceover for Audible. So it's also available on Audible. So, check it out. You could also go to your library. They likely have it because I got a good review from a book list, which is the Association of Librarians. That's their organization, and I got a starred review from them. So that might be in your library.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about, dude. So, you heard them, folks. That's right, indeed. Check it out, your local library. And if they don't have it, ask them to buy some copies, indeed, and share
Yeah,
some copies
yeah.
with others as well, indeed. That's right, indeed. Get some of that good historical fiction in your brain. That's right. That's right,
Mhm.
indeed. Get on the deep blue side.
Yeah.
That's right, indeed. So, any parting words before we close up shop, my man?
I'll just reiterate we're at a point in history where people need to actually stay engaged. Your future is at stake here. So I'd say just pay attention to what's going on, think for yourself, and go vote.
Thanks a bunch for investing your time by listening to this wonderful podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you really did, do me a solid and leave a review or share this episode with at least 3 people that you think would get some value out of today's content. Advance others to advance yourself.